We are not nation building again. We are killing terrorists.
That was President Trump's message to America and the world on what to do about the now 16-year-long war in Afghanistan. Trump's position has shifted from the early days of his campaign and before that, when he criticized President Obama at length about his decisions on what to do about Afghanistan. But Trump admitted as much during the speech.
My original instinct was to pull out. And historically, I like following my instincts. The men and women who serve our nation in combat deserve a plan for victory. They deserve the tools they need and the trust they have earned to fight and to win. A hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum that terrorists, including ISIS and Al-Qaeda, would instantly fill, just as happened before September 11th.
I know a big part of Trump's base of support came from and still comes from non-interventionist, more libertarian-leaning Republicans who tend to see overseas engagements as part of the problem of America's decline. I tend to agree. But Afghanistan and Iraq were both a mess when Trump inherited them from Obama, and likewise when Obama inherited them from Bush. Now it's about how he will deal with said mess. Obama certainly did not make things any better. I'd say he made things worse, in fact. So now the question is, can Trump make things better, particularly in Afghanistan? The president makes a key point that maybe those who supported the exit from Iraq originally have learned from the vacuum that was created. That simply cannot be allowed to happen again in Afghanistan. There is tremendous need for U.S. soldiers to operate in two major cities, Kabul and Kandahar. From there, they can do what they do best in preparing local Afghan police and military forces to take the fight to the Taliban in the rural portions of the country. Both Afghanistan and Iraq are now essentially proxy battles in regions where American and Western allied interests simply need to come out as winners. With Afghanistan, once again, the president emphasized that a strong military response to the Taliban insurgency was key to perhaps weakening them enough to bring them to the table for peace talks.
Someday, after an effective military effort, perhaps it will be possible to have a political settlement that includes elements of the Taliban in Afghanistan. But nobody knows if or when that will ever happen.
It's an interesting comment. Most of us would usually think jihadist groups like the Taliban would never be willing to negotiate. But in this case, I think President Trump might be right. The Taliban, well, they're not quite the same as ISIS in that they're not as apocalyptic, despite their similarly extreme interpretations of Islam and Sharia. But the idea that if you ramp up the military pressure and essentially make it seem like the Taliban's days are numbered, maybe there are more moderate voices who may accept a brokered peace deal once the writing is on the wall, as they say. As I mentioned, the region is now a proxy war, and the Taliban will never feel the pressure and despair they need to feel in order to come to the table for those peace talks, unless the issue of Pakistan is addressed. And as only President Trump does, he took dead aim at Pakistan with just enough Trumpism to make his point clear. This clip is long, but Trump makes such an important point about the role Pakistan plays.
The next pillar of our new strategy is to change the approach and how to deal with Pakistan. We can no longer be silent about Pakistan's safe havens for terrorist organizations, the Taliban, and other groups that pose a threat to the region and beyond. Pakistan has much to gain from partnering with our effort in Afghanistan. It has much to lose by continuing to harbor criminals and terrorists. In the past, Pakistan has been a valued partner. Our militaries have worked together against common enemies. The Pakistani people have suffered greatly from terrorism and extremism. We recognize those contributions and those sacrifices. But Pakistan has also sheltered the same organizations that try every single day to kill our people.
Closer relations with India in the region is key. China, Pakistan, and Russia are all geopolitical foes for the US and the West in the region, and all play a role in keeping the region partially destabilized and full of anti-American sentiment. And I understand the natural reaction for those that thought the president would be the guy who opposed all international conflicts and wars for the US. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to put America first, you need to secure American interests around the world. South Asia is no different. Building that alliance with India is going to be extremely important, but so is dealing with Pakistan. And the fact that they are a nuclear power, well, that makes it as delicate as it gets. After 9/11, the US embarked on a nation-building effort around the world in Afghanistan and Iraq. And while I tend to be idealistic to a fault in my own belief that the entire world would simply be better off with Western values and democracy, well, that experiment has failed spectacularly, and the empirical evidence is all there for us to see what has come of Afghanistan, Iraq, and even Libya because of nation-building attempts. And so, I couldn't agree more with the president's clear direction.
We are not nation building again. We are killing terrorists.
Thanks for watching. We'll bring you the unvarnished truth about the Donald Trump presidency, unlike the fake news media.